Hello and welcome to On a Mission, the show where we share inspiring conversations with phenomenal women who are creating success and prosperity in their lives with purpose and passion. I'm Pauline Rohdich, a success mindset coach and clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm on a personal mission to remind you that you are a beautiful soul and you have so much potential. And my intention for this show is to give you the nudge to answer your own calling and to rise up and take on your life's mission. Hello everybody and welcome to On a Mission, the show where we're highlighting and spotlighting phenomenal women who are on a mission of their own, bringing their God-given talents and gifts to the world and not being one bit afraid to share it. And today I have a very wonderful lady with me who has become a friend, Martina Regan. I'm so delighted that you're here today, Martina. Martina is an incredible woman, as you're going to find out. She's done a lot of different things in her life, but she is known now as a photographer to humans and also horses. So she has a wonderful, amazing website, which you have to check out, the Equine photographer. She's hails in Galway. She lives in Galway, but she has been a world traveler and is looking forward to getting back out there, traveling the world once the skies open up again. Martina, it's great having you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Pauline.
Martina has done a lot of photographs for me for my website, etc. So, I mean, we have a relationship in that regard as well. But Martina, this show is just all about you, people coming on board, just like yourself, and just sharing the journey, if you like, as to how you got to where you are today. And, so give a little bit of the background as to how you arrived to be photographing horses in particular. I don't know the whole story, so
okay,
other people are interested too.
Okay.
Share that whole journey with us.
So basically I went to college in Athlone, and straight after college, my mother had actually applied for a Morrison visa for me. I think it was the Morrison at the time. So I moved to New York 3 days later. And I worked in publishing in New York, and then I moved to California and I worked in Silicon Valley as an executive recruiter. And I moved back just at the beginning of the bubble burst that was happening there in the early 2000s. And I moved back, and that's when I decided to get into photography. I had started taking some credited classes in San Francisco, and that's when I decided I would come back here and give it a go, and I did. So I set up Martina Regan Photography, and as you said, it's mostly people, corporate, PR, product, that kind of thing. And then I took up horse riding. Well, I have a great love of animals anyhow. I really love animals, being around animals, and I particularly love horses. And I took up horse riding, and I was shocking at it. I broke my finger, I broke my coccyx bone. I wasn't very good at it. But I still loved being around them, and just even how they hold themselves, how they stand, they're so majestic and strong. And so I decided I wasn't really that interested in photographing horses jumping, because that industry is fairly saturated as it is. So I decided I'll just try something different. And I think I spent maybe 2 years trying to perfect the lighting and get the lighting right. And it's pretty much right. I mean, everything could do with small changes, but yeah. And so they're really kind of refined, bespoke lighting of these animals, and they're stunning. And I happily say they're stunning, not because of me or the photography, but because of how they present themselves. There's no issue, there's no mask, it's just them.
I know, amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. And it's going really well for you.
It's going pretty well, yeah. I mean, I started that back in 2015, and I did an exhibition, and then it kind of fell to the wayside when the other business got really busy, and I didn't really focus that much on it. And then when the pandemic hit, I really got back into the idea of it again. Didn't need to do the 2 meter distance.
Of course, I'm sure. I know. I'm sure other people are interested in knowing, which do you prefer? Do you prefer taking photographs of the humans or the I might know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer.
That's a terrible question, Pauline. Shocking question. Yeah, I mean, every day is a good day. Yeah. Whether it's humans or animals.
Good answer then. Politicians, are you going for the politics next?
No.
Martina. No, I completely hear you. Of course, it's a completely different experience, but
yeah, it is.
As you mentioned earlier that the horses are probably easier to work with. They're not too worried about their hair or their
No,
lipstick.
but it's a tackling business too. I mean, they don't, it takes time to get them to settle and get them to do what you want. But when they do it, it's almost like when you leave them alone to do it, they'll just do exactly what you want them to do. Working with people, it's opinions and perspectives and
But maybe,
everybody, yeah.
like when you say that and I think about it, obviously it could be even more time consuming, perhaps, working with the animals, because
Yeah,
they
it
may
is.
not follow the instructions. No, that's fantastic. And I've certainly seen some of your photography and it is absolutely stunning. There's no doubt about that. So your love of travel, where do you like to go?
So when I was younger, I never kind of spent a summer here. I was in Germany, I was in London, I was always gone. And there was never a sort of a particular place I wanted to go. Even with moving to the States, it was just, I just did it. It wasn't really something I gave a lot of thought to, and I just did it. And then when I was there, I traveled in the States and Hawaii and Canada, and I just did whatever was there to be done. So
Amazing.
for me, it's not even about, going to exotic places or being in exotic places. It's just about exploring. I love seeing how other people live. I love seeing how other cultures live. I love seeing beaches, hiking, nature, water, the whole lot. So it doesn't really matter. I would never say, oh, I have to go on a beach holiday. I'll go anywhere.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. But the camera's always with you, no doubt.
Not always. No, not always. Yeah, I don't always bring the professional camera with me. I do not, because
Yeah,
that
good
I have smaller cameras.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'll bring them, but never the professional one.
No, that's fair enough. And I suppose
Yeah.
it must be hard though when you are going to such beautiful locations on holidays not to be drawn in, or maybe even wishing that you could be taking more professional photographs. Or are your smaller ones? Well,
Oh,
I'm
they're
we are
they're they're pretty good.
I
They're
mean,
pretty good.
phones are not too bad as a camera, really, when you think
I
about
know, I know. Yeah, but I think too, because it's what I do for a living, you don't always want to be picking up, because there's always, in my mind anyhow, there's always like the post-processing, all of that. So that's an added on, whereas when I go, I just want to go and enjoy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate that. And even though I claim that my photography with my iPhone is pretty good, when I do see yours on Instagram versus mine of a similar scene there in Salt Hill, there's a difference. But I mean, obviously, have you always, I mean, to be honest, I think photography, is a big, there's an artistic quality to it. I mean, were you always good at art in school? Did you have a leaning in that direction, even though you sort of went to, well, I mean, is marketing something that you did did you study that?
I did business in college. Yeah. Yeah. But with the marketing, again, in my 20s, I kind of just fell into things. I wasn't on a mission of any sort. I was enjoying life in New York, and yeah, I wasn't really, I
Something,
wasn't thinking career prospects or,
of course, but I mean, you were in
yeah,
your early 20s. I mean, and who wouldn't love just enjoying and soaking up New York? I mean, I love it as a tourist. I've never actually lived there, but I absolutely love it so much. And
yeah.
I look forward to going back myself. But in terms of the art and the photography, was there signs of that earlier on? I mean, I'm always looking for the thread, because I mean, some people don't know what they want to do. There's a line in that Baz Luhrmann song. Do you remember it? It was actually called Sunscreen, the song. And he said some
Yeah.
of the most interesting 40-something-year-olds still don't know
Still
what they
don't know what they want to do. Yeah.
did. You always feel perhaps that you were going to lean into something more artistic and creative?
Yes, for sure. I mean, when I was younger, I was a really good sketcher. I
Oh,
was really good at sketching, not so much at painting, but I could sketch and
wow.
still can sketch pretty well. And music, played piano. I was more into. I wasn't very academic. I wasn't driven by getting through the books. It was more just to get through the exams. I wasn't driven that way. But yeah, artistically, yes, definitely,
So
definitely when I was younger.
you've come full circle. So it's no great secret or surprise that you're actually doing what you're doing.
No, not at all. And even, with that, like I wouldn't say, I have my moments. I wouldn't say I'm the most creative photographer. I'm always inspired by looking at what other people are doing, and everybody has their own edge. So like, for me to say I'm creative, that to somebody else might not be creative. I look at how my friends photograph, and their style is so different to mine. And even I remember in the beginning, you know, when I started photographing, and people used to say to me, I can tell your people shots straight away. I couldn't tell my people's shots straight away. You know, it was just amazing what other people could see, but it was just how I was working and how I was doing it and how I was lighting it.
But I mean,
You know,
I'm always trying to get people to understand their uniqueness, you know?
mm.
And I mean, one person's choice of art is somebody else, it would be horrific to somebody else. And thank God. And, you know, that we're all here to, you know, share our gifts and our uniqueness. I'm always harping on about it. So, but, you know, obviously the worst thing in the world that anybody can do is to compare themselves, especially when it comes to something like art or photography or whatever. Because how do you feel about that though? Do you feel that you compare yourself?
No,
Right.
and I'm not, you know, people say, you know, look at your competitors and look at what they're doing. I never did any of that. And I still don't do it. I still, because I don't feel, you know, and that sounds maybe a little arrogant, and I don't mean it like that, but I know for me, if I started doing things like that, I would put myself under unnecessary pressure, you know, and I don't want to do that to myself, because there are great photographers out there, really good photographers, but you'll always be booked for the job that's right for you, right? Like you're not going to, and you'll do a good job. And if you don't, then you're not brought back, lesson learned. But do I compare myself? Yeah, I mean, of course, some people have better business models than me. Some people are more driven than me, of course, but that's okay. That's not me. That's not me.
I mean, and that is wonderful, because a lot of people get caught up in the comparison trap, especially in the various industries. Similar in my own industry in coaching, and that you could get really lost, and it would really dilute your confidence.
Yeah.
So I'm delighted to hear that. But just a few questions, Martina, that I like to ask, if you're okay. Are you happy to answer the question, what was the most difficult decision you've ever had to make?
The most difficult decision was probably moving back from the States.
Okay.
Yeah, I like at the time 9/11 had happened, and even though I was in California at the time, a lot of family and friends were still in New York, and it wasn't even about that, just things changed, dynamics changed, the way we were living over there changed, and it took me a while. Like I didn't come back straight away. I took maybe 6 months off and traveled a little bit, and then I decided to come back. But even when I was making that decision, I wasn't really clear on it. So when I moved back, it was a really tough year and a half before I kind of settled down and kind of, you know, because I had been gone for so long. So I had gone to boarding school at 13. I'd gone straight to college. 3 days later, I moved to the States. And all of a sudden, I'm in my bedroom at home with my parents, who are great, and they were so supportive. I mean, my parents are amazing that way, as far as traveling, just go do whatever you want. But to come back to that, I felt so trapped. And so I suppose that was a decision that maybe in the aftermath, I realized how difficult and how big it was. And I didn't give it enough thought at the time. But, you know, I also realize now, looking back, that, like, you know, at the time you think the grass is always greener. I'll go home to Ireland. It'll be amazing. You know, you come home, it's raining, you know, but things worked out, and they did work out because I put the work in, and I chose to settle, and I chose to give this my best shot, because I'm a citizen, so I could have gone back to the States at any point, but I chose not to then. So that initial decision, very, very difficult. Was it the right decision? Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a great learning in that, isn't there? When so much we think, oh my God, things are not actually going my way, but in fact, bigger purpose. And it does it takes that personal growth, doesn't it? It takes a certain amount of wisdom to be able to see it that way.
Yeah.
I must say, I remember, obviously September 11th, who doesn't, that was alive. But I actually was working for British Airways at the time. So just within, I suppose, 5-6 days of the towers coming down, we took one of the aircraft from London into New York.
My gosh.
For nights in New York, but like that, I mean, we used to stay just off Lexington Avenue, 55th East Street, and Lexington, right in the heart of it. And I mean, it was just the most spookiest experience, because just, I mean, you'd hear a pin drop in New York City. It was unbelievable. And of course, incredibly sad. I witnessed a funeral of a firefighter going into the synagogue, and actually Giuliani and all the various, you know, big brass, if you like, were all lining the streets there in
Yeah.
New York. But I mean, unreal, but big changes to people's lives. But good for you for actually making it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I suppose even looking back at it now, I probably just was trusting the process. And I didn't even realize I was doing it then. It's only in hindsight, you know, with a lot of things, it was only in hindsight that I realized, you know, oh yeah. And it's the same with the business. When I set up the business, I didn't think, oh, this might fail. And that, again, not arrogance, more probably ignorance, maybe in a little bit, but like, I just was like, oh, I'll give this a shot, you know.
What ignorance perhaps of your intuition, not calling it the
Yeah.
intuition. I mean, how many of us knew we had an intuition?
Yeah.
Yet it's our guide, and it's always there from the time of our birth, but it's always working alongside us. But it's great even if we've done things unconsciously, which I have too, and thank God. I often say I'm like a cat with 9 lives. I've survived many a challenge in my life. But you know, it's this, when you have the awareness that it actually was the guidance, your inner guidance system, your intuition.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, it's not arrogance at all, actually. It is just that inner knowing. And if anything, you probably know that about me anyway. I'm always trying to bring that up because I think that is a missing piece for a lot of people, that they're not realizing that they have that invisible power.
Yeah.
You know, and even if some decisions, you know, initially at least don't appear to be supporting us, that we can always turn it around, and we will find out in hindsight, looking back, wow, that was just perfect. That was exactly how it was meant to be.
Yeah.
So look, you're a woman who loves reading as well. So what book are you reading at the moment, Martina?
Well, I'm doing the magic every single day. So that is the big one right now. I'm putting a lot of time into that. And then I'm reading this other book that was recommended by a friend of mine, Louise, and it's called Who Would You Be? It's by an Irish author called Patricia Fitzgerald, I think.
Yes.
I think his name of it. So these are a lot of books. It's funny that I'm reading these now because I don't normally read these books, but it's a lot of books about female empowerment and, you know, not fitting into the roles that we would normally be put into by society. Because I've also started Untamed. I think I know you, Glennon Doyle. I just started that. No novels. And I recommended to somebody else the other day to put down all the self-help books and start reading novels. And then I realized I'm actually reading all the self-help books myself.
I know, it's amazing. But I mean, look, certainly I love my self-help books, but then novels for the holiday, definitely.
Yes.
Switch off. There's no doubt about it. So what's your favorite quote and why?
I used to love all the Roald Dahl quotes, you know, the quotes about, like, you know, think good thoughts and that will appear on your face and that. But my favorite quote, and I might have mentioned this before, but my favorite quote now is from the Biden-Harris, Amanda Gorman, the poet. And she said, there is always light. I have to read this now because it's on my wall and I have to read it. So she said, and I love this quote. She said, there is always light if only we are brave enough to see it. If only we are brave enough to be it. Yeah. That even makes me emotional just reading it. I just love that quote.
Yeah, touches a nerve. Absolutely beautiful. She did an amazing job for such a young lady. She's absolutely incredible, phenomenal woman. There's no doubt about that.
Phenomenal.
Who would you most like to meet and why?
Do they have to be alive?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, if that was the case, Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always, when I was younger, I had a lot of back problems, and my parents weren't big on, you know, my parents always went the alternative route. So they used to take me to this guy in Castlebar once a week, and in his waiting area or whatever, he always had the Time magazines, and there was one other magazine that I can't even remember, Newsweek, that was it. And I used to follow the whole apartheid movement, and Nelson Mandela would have been in prison at the time, and I followed the whole thing. And then, of course, when he got out of prison, I think it was probably around the time that I moved to New York, around that time, and then he became president. And he was just an incredible man, like that, you know, the mindset of a man who's in prison for 27 years and can still smile through the prison bars.
And forgive.
and forgive and to accept, and still believe in what he was fighting for all along, and never give up, ever give up. And not just for himself, but for the entire nation who were affected by this movement of apartheid. And he stood up to resist that and never ever wavered.
No, it was not at all. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, he certainly seemed to be loved by many. Of course, there's always going to be people who didn't like. I mean, that's a whole political conversation, which I certainly don't get involved in. But I have to tell you though, because I work for British Airways and I did get a chance myself to travel to wonderful places. My husband and I, we went to Cape Town on one holiday, and we actually went out to Robben Island, and we actually were in his cell.
Oh wow!
It was just absolutely amazing. Yeah, no, certainly Nelson Mandela, I would say, would be a wonderful dinner companion.
Yes. Yeah, I was in an arena with him when he opened the Special Olympics.
Oh wow!
Here in Ireland, but yeah, obviously at a distance. His energy was there, though.
No, it's just fantastic. Yeah. So, listen, when do you feel, Martina, that you have, a connection with God, your higher self, your soul? When do you most feel that?
In nature, for sure. For me, yeah, I'm very much an outdoors person. I love the water. I row, I paddleboard. I love being on anything to do with water. I love it, and I hike. So anything to do with nature for me, but particularly the mountains. I love hiking, and I love making it to the top and then turning around and coming back down and experiencing that entire thing. Just it's just a beautiful thing to me. And I do feel very grounded when I do things like that. And I feel like, especially when I row, because even though we're in a boat with maybe 4 or 8 and we're listening to a cox or whatever, if we have a cox, but you're very enclosed in yourself as well, and it's a beautiful experience for me. It's a beautiful experience. I absolutely love that, and that's when I feel most. That's when some of my best thoughts come to me, when I'm either on the water or on a mountain, for sure.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. So what advice would you give to your younger self? Would you have done anything different?
Would I have done anything differently? No, probably not, but I think I would find the joy in things a bit more. And I'd like, one of the things that's come up a lot for me during the pandemic, especially, is the word freedom.
Yes.
In everything, freedom of our mind. And I think if I was to say that to my younger self, I would have sought that out a lot more, that freedom. And I would have worked on it a lot more,
And when you say the freedom within yourself, what might that have looked like for you?
I mean, there's different things, like, different aspects of my personality, I suppose, that drive me insane, and I own them. They drive me insane. But things like, learning to let go, learning to accept that I have me, and it's enough, small things like that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I think with the pandemic, we all had to become, in a lot of ways, self-reliant. There was a big financial hit, all of that kind of stuff, which, that's sideline stuff now for me. But at the time, it really made me sit up and think, you know what, I can rely on Martina. Martina's reliable. Like, I can rely on me and accept that, rather than like craving it elsewhere, or, being in bad relationships that don't serve me or them, or, I have a problem with letting go of things, and I have a problem with, or I had a problem with taking on other people's issues, and then they became my issues, and then I couldn't let go of them. So finding joy elsewhere, because happiness is it's that state of mind, and that's freedom, so that's what I would do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I suppose that takes time for some people, doesn't it? I mean, all these
a long time.
These contrasting experiences, it takes time to really unravel our own mystery as to who we are and why we are, and how we would do things differently. But thanks be to God, it's never too late, Martina. That would be one of my mottos.
100%. And, the other thing as well is about perspectives, which I've been thinking a lot about recently as well, and how we get so engrossed in what other people think. And I've had conversations with Lisa, who, you know, about this kind of thing, and about, you know, that we get so caught up in what other people think. And ultimately, you know, it's not our business. It's really not our business what they think. And that's okay.
The scariest part about it is most people are not really thinking about our business. I mean,
Fact.
we spend so much time worrying about other people when in fact everybody else is just worried about themselves. And we have enough to be doing in focusing on ourselves.
Yeah.
And becoming that best version of ourselves every single day. So listen, just to wrap this up, Martina, and it's been brilliant hearing all your insights and your wisdom. What excites you most about the future?
Now going forward, I think, again, I'm going back to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because that has been so life-changing for me in so many ways. And, you know, even down to coming up with different ideas for projects and stuff. I wouldn't have done that before, and I wouldn't have put myself out there before. But also, I'm much clearer in my head, thank you to yourself. I'm much clearer in my head about what my direction is and where I want to go. And the paths that I take to get there, good, bad, or indifferent, whether they work out or not, are all going in the right direction. So even if they don't work, then I'll change it and I'll go someplace else. But I'm much clearer on what I want, much clearer on who I am. So for me, that's really exciting to be able to go like, yeah, I know who I am and I'm okay, and it's okay. I'm okay.
More than okay is what I would say. But it's a wonderful realization, though. And I think, sadly, a lot of people don't go there and don't discover this in their lives. And really, it comes from the inner work, the introspection. Really, I think we deserve to get to know who we are, really, at our core, because confidence will surface, purpose will reveal itself, and we recognize that we've choices. And I mean, you've certainly created a wonderful array of opportunities for yourself. Recognizing, I mean, you're a wonderful multitasker, multi-talented, which is wonderful. And I think, would it be fair to say, because something that I'm very passionate about sharing with people is that most people are only tapping into, they say, 10% of their potential. So would you say, with the pandemic and your reflective times, that you can see that now you're using a lot more of your potential that maybe once upon a time you didn't think was there?
Without a shadow of a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. And not just with me, but I think also there's kind of transference to other relationships in my life, because I have changed as a person as well, and I'm much clearer on who I am, as I was saying. But you know, that has resonated across so many different areas in my life as well. You know, things that maybe I would have worried about before, I'm, you know, whatever, I'm not bothered anymore. I'm not bothered. So yeah, I do think I've gone way deeper in the last year and a half than I ever have in my entire life, and it has absolutely changed my life. So, and there's still a lot more to go, right? Like, you're never done.
As long as we're breathing, there's always going to be more to go. At least we've got some evidence now that we can actually get through it, and that we can overcome some of the bigger challenges. But really, what it sounds like you're describing is that freedom that you once upon a time describing is freedom, and it's available to every single person, and it's a very exciting journey. And I remember when the pandemic hit initially, like, I guess because I've been sort of studying a lot of this personal development, spiritual development for quite a long time, that I really did see it as having great potential for a lot of people. If people were willing to look at it that way. So once you're willing to see it that way, and of course, I think you and I both have seen a lot of people pivot and tap into that untapped potential, because it's amazing when your back is to the wall and maybe a business that you were doing previously or a job that you're in is no longer. Well, then you have to really tap into those resources, but it's given you an opportunity to realize, wow, I can do so much more than what I ever thought was possible. I think that is just an amazing thing.
Yeah, you know? It really is. It really is. And that's freedom.
It is complete freedom. What was it? What was his name? Our friend Mel Gibson in Braveheart. Wasn't that for a different reason, of course, but every time I think of freedom, that's what I think of when he spoke about that, William Wallace in Braveheart.
Mm.
Anyway, listen, Martina, it is just amazing to talk to you. And I just want to remind everybody, thank you so much for being here today and sharing so willingly. So Martina, you can check out her amazing work and book her if you want, Martina Regan Photography, and the equinephotographer.com as well. So
yeah.
Martina, again, we'll see you soon. And I just want to thank everybody for listening today. And if you are a woman on a mission too, and you'd love to be on this show, having a chat, it's raw, it's real. I'd love to have you on board. So give me a call, shout out, email me, or just get in touch with me. I'm pretty much all over the place. So love helping women out, love sharing wonderful stories. And because in the end, I just want to let people see what is possible. We're all ordinary women, some of us doing extraordinary things. And I wasn't putting myself into that category either for that matter. But, you know, there's amazing people out there, and like Martina and many other guests that I've had on board. So maybe you might be the next one. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Until the next time. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this show so that you will be notified when the next episode is released. And remember, keep believing you're amazing and you have so much to give. Now is your time.